Dumbo, Jongden, Dijin, Xinbong, Zhuozhongbo, Yangdobo, Zubizong, Ribo, Dong, Xiusu, Denbo, Dewo, Xibo, Jiden, Jim, Jibo, Nubie, Kalo, Jibo, Nong, Padong, Nong, Jidbo, Songji, Jongden, Bejiao, Xiaojiao, Dubo, Lo, Xiangzi, 觉多就是切我刚才个年做我就当子撒钱的那恐怕的不呢，那年就点的那就结束，的开包就那小子，那多个我就多说上我一些叫做世界的不。找不就得送那老给我，公布去年去了相册，先就得把这面到别桥，先多找我去了相册，对着见着西北上光去，我娘面去见去了相册。公布突厥去电报，当街前边电报。是那一点叫做先的见写了相册，他边的桥之环境给别给送的住，基督的当求就不先就去了相册，这年这月朗阳的老婆到那老多，先给当把眼点点给的朗阳相册。别把这样么小心，给我别送错吧。让给3年用说的，天天上街点吧。干嘛着的嘛面当，就嘛是我去吧。没让路到真道不，这些就能得到的。三郎的月当节日莫也，国公当年军节着的。噶当那当节月老主月，随便做了着我着我哟。
Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain, a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the 5 skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Sharadvati Putra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The 5 skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra. The mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
ma le shi jia ji jian zi bie du xia ji zu wan de la su wan de du ji qian bo de xin du ji chang chu zi de lu bo dan na ru bo bian chu zhong bian bo dan a de xiang yang ne xin lu ji na su wan de xiang bo tu mi ye nian na zhu de chu de de yue de dang zhou de xie zang gu san me nian su nian bo ya qin shi bian ji la su wan de ya ye yu mi xiong ji de zhuo dang na wan zhou bo ri bian ku zhuo jian sang jie gu zhong bo bo ya se su sang mo da yue ji la su wan de xie zhuo dang bian chong a de xiang ga dang dian bian me bo zhong de jie nian zhuo na xue gu qie song la su ga dang la mo na la su wan de gang jian xin de zi jie zong a ma mo do ri bian wang xiu jie zao jie dong a dian bie da bo ke zhuo jie yao zi ju bo jie la su wan de jiao song gun de la ma do jie chang gang la gang de xin nian ci zong de chu da tun mo mu zhu zun zi bi zhui jie la ma na la su wan de rang jiang su ro gun la da ye mi ge zang ta ba zhi bian zhong chu cai bian ju bian da gen zi ba yi sun zi xin nian na la su wan de jie wa gun du yang da la ma dong zhi mian qi jian bian la long xue jin sa dong lang ji yan de ro zuo nian do jie chang ge gu nian do xiu sang jie qiu dong cu jie zhuo nang nang xiang qiu bo du do nian jiao zuo jie da ge qi qi ji bian cu nang jie zhou le pian xie sang jie zhu guan xiu sang jie qiu dong cu qiu nang la xiang qiu bo du da nian jiao zuo jie da ge qi qi ji bian cu nang jie zhou le pian xie sang jie zhu guan xiu sang jie qiu cu jie qiu nang la xiang qiu bo du da nian jiao zuo jie da ge qi qi ji bian cu nang jie zhou le pian xie sang jie zhu guan 다들 가서 도마 아니 줄로 사바인도 정말로 아니 다 노동리 지잖아 로 사바라 강가라 아니 저시 데레다 아니 로 사비나라 강가라 아니 체리 내메다 아니 선대 출신 주변 아니 말아요스 근데 싫어지다
As this is the beginning of years, I would say a new year, and therefore let me take this opportunity to extend my greetings, Tachitera, to all of you. And at the same time, I would like to take this opportunity to pray for your long life, prosperity, and everything that you do be accomplished according to Dharma.
당가서 저 사바제셔 세케야 말에 아니 가르치 내가 치슈도 가르쳐서는 아니 장신이 좀 되던 줄알아. 또 장신이 좀 되던 가르쳐서는 대치되래. 대치되는 내가 제 대치다 타투기 대치래. 다 대니데 대치 용어로 대치 용이 줄은 배고 있잖아. 대유되는 가서 내 장신 이제 타지 있다도 아니 대치 용에 된다라. 내가 저기 네 거스 봐봐. 아니 진행해야 돼. 미조 되래.
So here now, our main purpose of being here today receiving the teachings is to fulfill the purpose of one's own self and that of others. When speaking about fulfilling the purpose, what is the means by purpose here? What is the purpose that we would like to fulfill? So purpose here refers to the happiness, the state of happiness. That is what we are all aspire to attain. And so when speaking about happiness, there are of two kinds: the happiness or temporary happiness, and that of ultimate happiness. Ultimate happiness. So our sole purpose of receiving the teachings or the practicing Dharma is to fulfill these two purposes.
다 던져게네 지 최천에 저와랑서 되게네 팀모이레네 가니 다니시 제바다 면자와 아니 경로죠 봐서는 미이자바 던져게 미이데 가르자고 의사서데 가와자 버서나니 대정가서 찾아나지 너랑게 되잖아가 되니라니 덤바 투병 보라 아니 랑레지비 라마종 시지도 되잖아 보라 권등이 지미 받체.
So now, whenever we receive the teachings of the Dharma, cultivation of positive motivation is essential. And so when speaking about here again, cultivation of positive motivations is you're setting your goal or your purposes or your objective of receiving the teachings. That is what is all meant by cultivating appropriate motivations. So in order to cultivate such motivations, let's take our time to visualize Buddha Shakyamuni in front of oneself at the level of one's forehead, surrounded by the great masters of the Lam Rim lineage gurus, and imagining that they have willingness of giving a blessings and so on.
다라니라 가서지 단다게 내가 될지 소소대사는 소시지고 손대지 마인바 이 몽체와데 가서 단다 가서 주피 내다 제나다 문에 전에잖아 장르보네 예비 천왕 여래다 세기에 미인로데 각각이 대지 세비 남발에 봐 세보세장 대지 수행이지 내벌에 세워인 전 타니고 쇼지 미지리 대도 소매지래 인자네 내 라지선 랑게 전제 방마집에 선진 강가 아니 대지 주에 미지 되어 인자네 아니 대행 가서 대지 주에 미지 토너라 라지 선제 타지 냥들 요여산네 아니 대지랑 가서 미가 책이다.
So now, having visualized those lineage gurus and Buddhas in front of oneself, and being oneself in their presence, surrounded by all other sentient beings, although that physically we are not together, we're all in different places when speaking about other sentient beings. We're not together. But one thing that we need to remember and we need to know is that we all have a common object. All sentient beings, including oneself, as we long to achieve happiness, and so all sentient beings have a similar wish to attain happiness. So therefore, at this point, to cultivate our motivations, let's take this opportunity to visualize you yourself as surrounded by entire sentient beings without exception.
아니 야 자와를 미비 대바 아니 마스jel을 미비 님 대바다 희진이 아니 총한 데슬레비 단달라니 가만히 소지 미바체.
So with this, we are cultivating faith to the visualized great beings and extending or cultivating compassion towards all other sentient beings. With these two cultivations, let's take a couple of minutes to meditate.
아야. 네, 된저기다. 다생 löwo지的 sen koyong mo ji no lo la ani ji yuan de jo sen ne chen yan kan de ji jian na yang ji ba bu su do bo ji ko bo no lo xin do so ne jiu sha ma yin ba ne san ba de ma le san ba de ja koyong mo ji jian yuan de ni ge cha ka de xian nan ro rong yin de ji cha ji do de me no so bu su do bo ji de de yang ge cha mo bo ji na ma de no la sang ko le ji chuan nan yi jian de le ji do de ne me jia ba ji san ba le ji mo le koyong mo ji ma ne ni ji 소위 최천에 제너레 뒤진 나이 칸데 제너레 뒤진 소위 내가 간제지 제서나 아니 소소소 딘철에도 와 대패케 첨부래도
So it is very important when receiving the teachings is to broaden one's mind, or in other words, one should listen to the teachings open-mindedly. Because if you are not preparing openness of one's mind and broadening of one's mind, and if you just let your mind as narrow as it is, then even when you hear something, one word that is unpleasant to you, it will interrupt your peace of mind, and it will actually prevent you from actually receiving and actual, understanding or the comprehending the actual meaning of the teaching that is given by the teacher.
다 등저기 관심이 최대네 상주 런지 되는 바스 아니 가서 정원으로 just 시시지 도대 좀 버치게네 배된 것도 지름 발라나 등에 되래요. 뭐때 돈이 지름한테 아니 사모기 런지름 바데 아니 때 용서 배우지네 런지름 바지 향이 될 런링 설라잖아 되고.
So now the teaching that we are receiving is continuing from the previous sectors where we are on the subject matter, which is the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment, Lam Rim Chenmo. So this particular text can be said as a clear presentation of the stages of the path, as His Holiness has mentioned during his teachings. There are mainly primarily there are two teachings, two different kinds of the teachings that are explicit teachings and then implicit teachings. The explicit teaching referring to the teachings of the wisdom or the emptiness, and implicit teachings are the teachings of the stages of the path. So the implicit teachings is the one that we are receiving today.
되지. 인터넷 가 속에 아니 중국 잼버 때문에 신지바 배치어서도 토마토 잼버 투베 엄버게 신전도 되는 거지 송 안테네 자와 샴방 공비 아니 대인 제바나 아니 대네 조제네 대네 랑게 전체자 일람이 봐도 아니 방 주의마 챙겨야 돼 내가 좀 지바 배치어 세디.
So first begin with our the first outline of the stages of the path, which is the greatness of the authors given in order to show the teachings as noble source. That entails that these teachings can be traced all the way back to the Buddha himself. And Buddha has given the stages of the teachings of the stages of the path to his disciples and transmitted to Maitreya, the great Buddha Maitreya, then transmitted to the lineage gurus all the way to Joji, Adisha Karashiricana, and to one's own root guru.
다 당하라 기바집이 최제 쳐와서네 쳐니 바데네 되게 라마 대다게 자치무 송데라네 치체 가려요 세티지.
So then next teachings is the showing the greatness of the teachings in order to engender respect for the teachings. So now this entails that what is the specific features of the particular teachings will be given in this particular texts, the stages of the path. So one can also say that one of the greatness of the teachings is the encapsulations or the compendium of this particular text is a compendium of both teachings of the sutra and tantra. And another greatness is it's very convenient to practice, to subdue one's own mind. It also emphasizes purely on how to subdue one's own mind.
딱 콘도서서 내지로 아니 신다 첨부님지 룰라케비 아니 라마님지 명아지 젠바 세디 콘도서의 쇼지 좀
So then this is where you can trace back to the great teachers or the great pioneers or the revitalizers of the Buddha's teachings. So with this, shows how authentic this teaching is.
된저기 자첨부기 되라니 상조랑지르비기 단다코로 조 도도데 산나동에나 된저기 체원장에게 이 최지래.
So this is the teachings, the actual meanings of the teaching, the essence of the teachings of this, the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment. In other words, entire teachings, the description of the teachings or the meaning of these teachings can be encapsulated within this.
대원아 된저기 라마 자첨부 송바의 최 자첨부이나 아니 여기 거서 봐봐야니 치 아니 녀시 제베 걸라 아니 교로 가르치 커버래 세디 아니 사이사지 송바 백개 첨부데.
So then the third outline, which is important to remember, because since the teachings and that the authors are both so great, so then what kind of motivations that is required for one to receive such great teachings?
데 사나 야보지만 돈은 데리러 맞선들이 배는 빼자나 게다 첨부들이 데 아니 허다들이 티살을 따로 제서 맞아셔서나 맞을 티살을 맞동하지 맞아서지 당신은 배년 같이 벌어. 대는 이게 상제 상주 상반나지 단다기 용대 가리기 티살을 자서는 선제단지 조비 상제지 고본조비 아니 티살을 자셔.
So it is very important that the teachings, the purpose of these teachings need to be, dedicated towards achievement of one's enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings, which is the purpose of all those great beings or the great Buddhas or teachers or the masters who gave these teachings. This is their purpose of giving the teachings, aiming towards, working for the welfare of entire sentient beings in order to, in other words, to establish all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. Just as if we were given some capital or some, in other words, money to spend for our, school curriculum, for spending for one school, and instead of using this whatever the capital that is given by someone or donated by someone for the purpose of for the school, if instead of using for that, if we misuse that money and donating to the warfare, in other words, buying weapons and wars and so on and so forth, then this is completely wrong.
That's why such 담방거지 하나 제대로 이름바스 안데라 런치서와 신이 비치다 아니 때는 제다지 이름바 니스 언데지 소샤로시 있는 게만 러시.
Then the next outlines, one of the important outline is here. The sequence in which the disciples are to be taught the actual instructions, which will then be followed by how to listen, how to rely on the teacher, the route of path, and having relied on the teachers, how to train one's mind.
아니 담보가 가서 때내로 제다제 이런 발라 니제 대유대나 님볼린 비시 그거다 님보 제다님 니제 다 동보 지사 다 님보 제다님 비 취되라 니제 랑지 나자랑 님보 지사 님볼린 증거지 다 동보 지사 다 님볼린 증거들라 송지 주부 충인다 대모야 랑제를 마냐서는지 주부 된다 대모야 랑제를 마냐서는지 주부 챔비 랑제를 마냐서는지 다 동보님 지사 다 주부 챔비 랑제를 마냐서는지 자이 사제 송지 대전은 주부 고담바 센제 코나덴바 센데 주다 지비 수 센제네 쇼발라 로지제 다 동보님지자 다 센제네 쇼발라 로지데라 송지 센제네 로발라 로구비 진센 로발라 로발라 로베 사제 문주바 덴바 로발라 로베 렘바 니시바지 다 동보님지자 다 로발라 로베 렘바 니시바달라 니제 아니 테바 쯤버 줄라로제다 체바도 도제 테발라 로지제 다 되는 테바 쯤버 줄라로지데라야 사이사제 대바지마 줄라로 쓰텔라 사제 사제 송제 아니 상선제 상선제 로발로 론데 장와 장네 제세제 담바송 존네 제다로비 주제 다 담보텔라 양 송제 존네 제다 아마레 도모닌지자 다 존네 제다로비 주텔라 양 자이 사제 송제 자이 사제네 제레 아니 간라로비 주 아니 간라로비 로바 제송 뭔제바 텔라로바는 되지 텔라로비렘바지 다 동본인지사 다 텔라로비렘바텔라 아니 니제 테 파제 쇼바절로제다 제바다 파샤 타마니라 하제제 아니 쇼바절로제다라 한자이사제 니제 랑게 상제제 최면바시바 파제 파르시 주다 아니 제주면바시바 뒤용고버지 다 동벌로 주 제바 수준조바 삼대 아니 시라우지 다 되는 제발라 시발라 사제 네 송인사 바지레자 제비모 네 대제발란 주비 탁 대제반 주비 탁레 이제 네 제비로데 야와 된디바 당아서 거스 바바 아니 제세지 쇼바 냥서 렘발라 아니 파르데 쳔바 주 냥서 렘고 인자네 디노요 동보 아니 제비 파르신바 냥서 렘 시팅볼라 데데레스 라샤바지
We are on the particular chapter of engaging in the deeds, the Bodhisattva's deed, the practice of how to engage in the Bodhisattva's deed, in other words. So when it comes to the practice of the Bodhisattva's deeds, the practice of generosity comes first. So we are on the process of explaining the practice of generosity.
됐지. 당가서 준비 파신 지당한도 되래. 대중한도 상추 신초 이용 신체 당제 나게 전된 상추 신체 당제 된도 대화긴 준비 당와라 나속에 자지 가르쳐거선 이 동의 상추 선비 쉬어발라 로그래 세대 아니 된다 되니지. nengaado.
So now, as we find in the Bodhisattva's, the verse of the Bodhisattva's vow, we stated, having generated bodhicitta, may I invite all sentient beings as my guest. So now, if you are preparing to invite all sentient beings as your guest, then what that you have prepared to, what have you been preparing? Because when you invite someone, you have to prepare something. So the preparation here is to Jiangchu Zhuizhu Yong Zhebri, which means the immaculate, bodhisattvas, the deeds of the bodhisattva. By having invited all sentient beings as my guest, may I, lead them into the path of the immaculate deeds of the bodhisattvas.
다테노 가서 가서 준비 파신세리 아니 준비 파르도 신바생인데 인치미지 동아보 강사되니라 신바기 동아기 제했던 여비 깨참시와체 아니 세나기 균티생 세나 짐바 매바체 강라 추지심바 이내라 산지심바 간데체나 세나 매비토네 제불 라니란데와 라니라 모험바던지 요거선비 제테 매비토네 탕치 류롱시 genso 제바 네 장시 선제 탕치를 똥세게 니 똥센데 거게지라 니 심바선라 그래.
So here, when it comes to the practice of generosity, it is not necessarily that when practicing generosity, we need to have some gift that is to be given to others. This is not the primary practice of what is meant by generosity. So here now, what is meant by generosity? It is that state of mind that whatever that you give, whatever the gift that you're preparing to give to someone, you should do so without miserliness and with devoid from miserliness and not having any obligations and not aiming towards any kind of rewards and and praise from someone to whoever you are given the gift. So therefore, without miserliness, if you are able to engage in the practice of generosity, giving away to your resources, even your own body and so on, will be the right way of engaging in practice of generosity.
근데 가서기 또 때라 참하게 시간이 지로로자 대나서 가서가니 야창 가는데 가서 대나 진비 파신지 냥래네 무스 제절로 동아 매장 동이 선바 곧도만에 제진 제배도 동아 인노세데.
So now let's read from the text. It is on page 115. We're actually on the how to begin the development of generosity. But Rinpoche wants to read from the above paragraphs that we already covered, but he wanted to read once again. It says it's very clearly mentioned. Thus the practice of profession of generosity entails generating in various way the intention to give and steadily increase this generosity, even though you may not be actually giving away something to others.
Jela tong ze me ja se de na ngone che wa na nga so gi jimbi ge ze de lin chi mi ji ma zo san sin yu ge cho ye chu ji jin ba yin na yu chu ro ngone lang ri sha ta na zo lang ri jin bo no song yu de ni chu ji jin ba de ni shang chu san ba ra jung la zo song re es ni san si gi jin ba de shang chu san ba qin ba la zo song re es ni ka sa lang ri jin bo no ta ra na ba xian do
Lam Rim karna so be rum che
lang ri jin bo
Lam Rim no las. So here now, again, when speaking about the practice of the perfection of generosity, as we mentioned earlier, we're not speaking about to have some kind of substance or to some kind of gift that is to be given to others. That is not necessary. So therefore, if you look at the middling the stages of the path to enlightenment, the middling stages of the path to enlightenment, where it is clearly mentioned that the practice of the perfection of generosity, of giving the gift, of the material gift, in other words, is taught to the lay bodhisattvas, and the practice of perfection of generosity, of giving a dharma, is taught to the ordained bodhisattvas.
대양 들었어도 기시 샤라오기 로중게 됐었잖아. 이제바도 막 땅비 편에도 손바 메세도 시도 이제바 땅비 편에도 손바만 근쪽에 산하게 님이 저 손바레스. 대송게 진세가르잖아. 아니 로중게 됐어서 아니 이제바 땅에 대달을 제도사도네 추지바절을 측정해서 만지비 아니 가자 통네 아니 들었어바레스는도.
So here in that particular text, we find a quotation from great Kadampa Master Geshe Sharwa, where he had stated, he talks more about, not being miserliness of whatever that is, whatever that belongs to you. He talks more about that rather than acquiring a gift that is to be given to others. So therefore, and he further mentioned that, if the practice of the profession of generosity is emphasized more on giving gift to others, then the ordained members, those who are fully ordained, will then have to prepare and acquire all those gifts which they do not possess. So therefore, and they have to go everywhere to find those gifts to give it to gift that is to be given out to others. Then this may become obstacles for their vows and so on. So therefore, it's clearly mentioned that when speaking about the practice of generosity, it doesn't really emphasize on giving a gift, the material gift. It's not the primary practice of generosity.
아니 텔 안더스탠드 체데니네 제바 많이 봐야 새로 뭐베게니 레더 선나 용어게니 지 상시 중앙이나 아니 지 사나 메베토네니 당원 샤워 손도 메바
without putting in a lot of efforts, out of your own karma and your own merits. If you happen to have some material gift, if you happen to have something that is given to others, and you should do so without miserliness.
대체 당연로게다. 다 니빠 데려가서 다 아니 되게 신비 가서 대체발은 주비 터세되니 신비 파신 랑질레 제비 아니 터데 가르레 선나네 자이사제 되는 니빠. Jimbi Pasha Rangila Chibi, Tombo de Jimbi Mochi, Nibade, Rangila Chibi, Tossing, Jimbi Pasha Rangila Jana, and Nicheto country Chevrolet.
So now, how to begin to develop begin the development of generosity? So we will be speaking about that.
Nipane, Leoton Shella Sena, Maluba Jomba Sanjine, Jimbi Pasha to Munjite, Sena and the judge Chato by Yimbe, Timage Jajamba, Niji Jang, Sabeda Jabba Maluba Pombi Shoro. They should only get Sene Guden Zimba Sewa Zand Masi. Doba Tanji Jala Tombe Samba Ni Tabane Jabba, Goso or something.
So here now, how to begin the development of generosity. It's simply destroying all stinginess in regard to your body and resources. It's not the perfection of generosity. For stinginess is included within attachment. So even the two kinds of the Hani and Arhats have totally eliminated it along with its seeds. What is required then is that you not only clear away stinginess. Stinginess is tight-fitness, which prevents giving things away, but also that you develop from the depth of your heart the intention to give away to the others all your possessions.
Teaching us a Sena cathedral, Mari Jimbi cathedral, Sena Celawara. Any Cheragi Jimbi Passion Rajila Chebi said, any Sena Meba Sanjala Sena, and Telaguma de Tetana, and in Yara Dachamba to the Sena, Numoroa, Yara Dachembi Chanson Ponsare, and in Yara Dachembi Jula Jimbi Passion Mendoas. Get it.
What this particular paragraphs, to summarize this particular paragraphs, is now the opponent of our practice of generosity is stinginess or the miserliness, right? So long as you are able to get rid of this miserliness, that's just mere mere getting rid of the miserliness will not become an actual practice of the perfection of generosity. But if this is so, then the two kinds of the arhats, arhats of the Sherpaka and arhats of particular Buddhas, also eliminated those miserliness along with their seeds. However, they have not actually, they do not have the practice of perfection of generosity.
Wana kante che gore sana senagi kyuntri se goro senagi shu chenpo te meba kashi chi la rangi noze ronsho da cheba yen la tongba tajing yen la wana giri kanje tong ne drebu da cheba la soso la rendo meba ji lu ronsho genso cheba yen la tong yin drebu ten yang rangi le dewa chona sa kecha meba che yonso tong to ngenchi tenri le nye taba ne cheba chi le so na tela jimbe pashin je nyang le yo se la gores.
So it is now here, the point is that not only that not having a miserliness, is important, but also, and on top of that, in addition to, not having miserliness, the quality of not having miserliness, but you should have a encouragement of giving away everything that you have without any exceptions, without any obligations, with no obligation for rewards and so on and so forth, and whatever that you have, including your body, resources, and so on and so forth, that you have without any miserliness, that you are giving away, having an encouragement of giving away to all sentient beings without exceptions is needed. So if you have such qualities, then you are having an actual practice of perfection of generosity.
Nga so yana kato kesi shena tada degi maarima liu longshe genso ta cheba shenge yinbi sonre yen la kwa tsabi sonre bete lo tongo goda nga so yana monche wate tero chugi senge te le yudi semba nono zimba tambo meba le shaya chi sero wata jine pimbi yi shansen de tsewe yi kangal pa mil che shaya son chiro tere yeah.
So it is now, and this kind of mental quality of not only that not having a miserliness, in addition to that, that you should have this encouragement of giving away everything, including one's body, one's virtue, the root of virtues that one is accumulated for 3 times, and one's resources and so on and so forth. And this kind of mental quality should be omnipresent within us. So you are, in other words, that you should be able to, dedicate your entire body, speech, and mind towards the benefit of other sentient beings. This is what one should have to have a practice of perfection of generosity.
Tela kasen yenche changro shangchu sen dama no be ka so so nga zo ji shangchu sen ge damba ye lo sho ye sa tong je de ni she she ru la so ba ye re da nang ga che sho de ni ran den yi she ji lo de shu chong dong ga so da ran den yi she jin zin ba de le go da de le so na ja la kang me yin bi so le cha ro dan dan de na yin nga zu ji pa dang go de che go le sen shu ko yong ye ge ma re da sen ba ko no de ran den yi she de le ne ni kang ga pa zhe wa dang yi xian le pa dang yi so le chi.
So here, when speaking about the Bodhisattva's deeds, of course, we need to observe the Bodhisattva's vows. And speaking about the Bodhisattva's vow, we have 18, root Bodhisattva's vow and 46 secondary Bodhisattva's vows. And however, the most important heart for us to remember to protect or to preserve our Bodhisattva's vow is to get rid of this self-cherishing mind. So long as you are able to get rid of this self-cherishing mind, and self-important, a sense of self-importance. You will then be able to observe and protect the vows as by product.
그래서 데메 또디 미테 시생에저 데는 인사로 랑진지기 님이다 당지기 님이니데 통어디 생코로기 차보기 미테데 시어디 진의 상보다 저 코로기지 맞으면 뭐 처럼 맞으면 라보시 위지 차요 거에서로 차바로.
So when one is able to see the object of the false perception, in other words, the false perception of Rangchijin self-cherishing and the false perception of the self-grasping, which will loosen your grasping itself and grasping and cherishing of one's own mind, will then soften your perception and become so flexible and shallow. It will not become so concrete as long as you're able to understand that whatever the mode of apprehension of the self-grasping object of the apprehension of self-grasping and self-cherishing are false.
당에 로그에 다 시에다 많이 줘서 말이마도 근데 전에 상나 땅땅이 줘는 수수 시와대 저도도 최선의 선바 시와 종이래 니모세데 마시와 담보 종이대로 등외에 세랑 인사로.
So this is the explanation is needed because when speaking about the practice of Dharma is to pacify one's mind that is not being pacified. So that is what we need to understand when speaking about practicing Dharma and receiving the teachings of the Dharma.
고소치 대라인데 용수 종이 님이 땅의 편 강급에 대줘봐 샤오스 아니 세네 님이 땅의 편에 아니 더지랑지를 용하는 셰거로 인산에 된다데 저기 인수.
So then here it says, for this you have to meditate on the faults of holding on to things and the benefits of giving them away. I shall therefore discuss this.
되지. 대라 가속이 단단 가속이 담보된 진대에서데 나다 나이와 나이 소보 나이 잘라 나이 주변저 생인데 담보 진대에 데려와. 되게 내다데 마셔요. 저는 가서 담보 진 차선 제도라. 차병원이 좀
So here it says, for this you have meditated on the faults of holding on to things. So what is meant by faults of holding on to things is now ngada ngayura, which is we are holding on to self, I, and mine, which belongs to the attachments. It is due to this attachment we are having a strong holding onto the things, and it then instigate the further arousal of other affections.
나바도 먼저 체디 쳐봐잖아. 체디 유주보들로와. 체디 유주보디 내당 정정 먼저한테 내 초토이 된다로와. 인자는 유주보디 내당 되는 다와점을 소용우도와.
So therefore, when speaking about the holding onto I, is I referring to one's own body? Normally, when we identify ourselves as I, we normally identify one's body, right? So we are holding on to and we're grasping onto as I, holding on to I, but grasping onto I by identifying one's own body, and for the sustenance of one's body, we do everything with this. We engage in all kind of activities or actions to sustain and preserve one's body.
다와점을에 지워지위 리데당 소전 요 오면지 면랑 지만 저와라 시반데다 차베나 시드마로 레셰데 디비온데 송하다 메케 치다 점바 점베 송 데다 미제 녀완조 셰 류메장와다 소 레자지 바우다 요와당 류소 니가레 레지 상원체 임베 장원이 da me bata melang de jima da bu jumba da jumba te ne te la chapa ga go te te malo na chapi on de son de nyeshe chenpo na sa ne nyen ro ro wa son ba ta ko ta ye ba ju bi son le chang son do
So here, the Moon Lamp Sutra, Chanda Pradita Sutra, yes, it says those childish people are attached to the rotating body, and to this rushing life force, both of which lack independence and are like a dream or the magician's illusion. And so this unintelligent beings do terrible things, fall under the control of sin, and carried away by the chariots of death's Lord, and proceed to unbearable hells. This is that you should stop attachment by viewing the body as unclean, life as a rushing like a mountain's cascade, both body and life as devoid of independent self, because they are under the control of karma, and both as a false like a dream or the magician's illusions. Furthermore, if you do not stop attachment, you will become dominating by it, build up great wrongdoings, and proceed to miserable realms.
Teta sebo sejaro matsuki kanje luso yo chi chuba jase lu da so ge ne dang de ni ye ne dang de chima chi jin ba me te ta shi tempo chi le ngon zin che ne ani le da ma da sa ne chi da shin ji ye ani shamba sen re de ri chi le so ne ani ta nge son re ta ngo to na sin rang ro ta da nga so ge ne dang de su so so len zin da kan ji do da wa yin na ta shi tempo chi de yi dong wa chi na ba de sebo sejang yo ro.
Though in reality, our body, our body is like a bubbles of the water. Without having a proper understanding of that, we grasp onto it and working for the preservation and the nurturing of one's body as if this body will last forever. However, it's not so. And we engage in all kinds of activities that are non-virtuous, which will become a very, the vicious cause for, falling oneself into the hell realms in one's spiritual life.
Da de de chi ba re da zon ta ya ba le ju ka sa re go ta ya ba le ju bi zon le chang sin che kan da kha chi zhe je ba yi za yong se zin ba de de kan la se ban jo wa pang se pa pang xie ne zon se je xie dang se lo de le chang so do.
So then here it says, consider also the formula that that accomplishes limitless methods. Anandamukha Nirhara Darayani, sorry. As to living beings who dispute with others, it is tested by tight fitness that is the root cause. So renounce that which you crave. After you give up craving, the formula will work.
nga su dewa tenda do che na nga su kanga chi che rimbo da chi ju che nga su chu na tani che na che rimbo che ba da chi ju che ba se tani che bu re su de sui na che rimbo de ni de ni chang chang de wa yin na yang ni sen che mong bo shu ji ge zo ba shen de so yin che dang ba de ni yong so yin che sho ba de ni de ga ri che che ni wo se na ni liu le cha bi wang ge ni da ka sa 아니 소쇼와라 소바 예전에 딘드기 차바데 세바 방고리 대방와이나 아니 대다기 세림보 용이게 내가 저 통주년지 레슨들이 딘드 레죠로 딘드기 레 세림보 용이게 레사그리 세데데 지용이게 레사그리 세지 가제 차비용이 도자 제그리 아니 대방소나 세림보다 내지용을 세데
맞아. 이 바라데 rum체 테스트 체스인데 이 달람디아 혹시 중문도
야야
바라데 테스트 체스 rum체
야야
고마 소름 이게 순나가 투세
또 안 되느냐
야동
가서 고에 되게 송세 고 타야바 생이되게 송되게 된다데 송생이데 세루데 최송한줄 거고도 되게 세루데 최송생인데 가르서나 맞지 류를 차비용이 아니 세제레레게 아니 소쇼바든 용거레스 되려요나 아니 세통하다 내망 용거레 인터넷 대다 방송나 아니 세델 세령한테 내지라서 봐 용거레스
So here now, in this, as you living beings who dispute with others, it is tight fitness, which is the root cause, right? So here now, we find in the we have a saying that, and in other words, that we all have a common desire, aspiration to have a long life, right? None of us, wish for a short life. So we all long to have a long life. So therefore, even according to Dharma, we do have certain practices of sustaining one's lifespan, the practice of sustaining one's lifespan or setup and so forth. And so, but here now the essential point here is now, if one is able to get rid of all this attachment, because the attachment is the one actually, shorten one's life. It is due to the attachments. And there are many beings, animals, and so forth, just for attachment for their own body and so forth, they lose their own life. In order for their sustenance of their own body, in order to, sustain their own body or restore their own body, they lose their body. Why this is happening? It is due to the attachment. So if you are able to get rid of the attachments, then then your sustenance of your life, the lifespan, can be take place as byproduct.
맞아 과학하는 것은 세나시든 진바데 진바 생에데 소치셔데 차병원기로 와 차병원기 담보 생고를 진고 디용원게 냐다서고래 송과 아니 진바데 요소나 르바데 요소나 진바 담바데 요마로 와.
So here now, when we're having this miserliness or this stinginess, the stinginess and miserliness are coming out of, derived from attachments. So, so if you are able to engage in the practice of perfection of generosity, then you're holding on to this object, you're holding on to this belongings will be loosened.
담보되게 주비 내다기 저랑이 담보 제대로 콜레 담보 제한치 민도 크게 예미 대신도세 니바들 니 담보 제병원에 니 저랑을 강에 되대 저기도 왔어 되래.
So first it talks about, it is not worthwhile to, really to hold on to your body. And then second, it talks about, if you hold on to your body, then this will be the disadvantages of holding on to your body.
맞아? 그러면
Take 10 minutes break. Sometime he mentioned that when the teachers who teaches Lam Rim, and when they find that it's very difficult chapter and difficult points, and they tend to go faster, without having detailed explanations. But when it comes to a very easy point and easy chapter, then teacher takes a very long time and go through the detailed explanations. That is how we are doing here.
ane loti le chanche ta loti ki tanda tere do ta nga so kanche mitsang yi lu donge ta shu chi tande chi yena ya ane lu de pat nyamba cho de choba ni zobe shangchu jo ko pa ta che le je ya na ta me je na khare re se de loti ki long di tanda tere do.
So now here loti lung dan de chalo na me ba rum che.
Lo jin da.
So here now we have not read this verse from the compendium of trainings, where it's the meaning of this is now. Let's shed a little light on that before we read this verse. The verse, what it says is now, even though that our bodies are not pure, it is impure body, but within this impure body, that what we can do is now by having such the impure body, that such this impure body has a certain potential of reaching the state of enlightenment. So therefore, it is important for us to make good use of it and let its potential get to its destination.
Shedan loti le chanche deta da ge lu dan sen keji re ren ro ani kete meta tribo bi lu ji da ji jeme ji shangchu toban junane dene re me nye min nang shedan jero le song.
So compendium of training says, my body and mind move on moment by moment. If with this impermanent body dripping with filth, I attain enlightenment, which is permanent and pure, will I not have attained what is priceless?
To ande da deta rangi le de sen keji re re ge da keji re re ge ji do da dendre de chuni re was keji re re dendre ge ji do ma se ani lu de ma chang yi lu ni kyen de ne me chang wa ani chana la su ba bo de ge ne ta ji yin ba de ni ani lu ji ta ji zma me bi shang chu ta ba ji je ya na da ani de ne ren tang che wi ani nyen ba ji ma re we song do.
So what it says here is now, though our body move on moment by moment, and not only that it move on to moment by moment, but also impure, as we find in the verse it says, with this impermanent body dripping with filth, right? So now, though this is impure, but it has such a potential, which is potential to attain, which is a state of enlightenment. Won't we think that is very priceless? It is something that is so precious. Won't we consider to hold on to it to be a precious?
Sheda jero le chang damin ji la nyimpo me bi donghe jeme ta de me chang lu ji jen la pen to jo la gawa min je tene kema yin she sumba ta song do.
So then here, the Garland of Birth stories, Jatakamala states, this body devoid of self, perishing without substance, suffering, ungrateful, and continually impure, is of benefit to others. Not to delight in this is not to be intelligent.
She sumba ta ngem ge pa to shunju pa to lo tene tanda chi she sumba ta chi be pa to me son chang ngem pa to go bi nimbo me bi lui jen la sam be ta me janji je te mo bo juba la Teta lui mijawane da lumbo wonyang de sane lula soba jen la tangwe lo jije lo jije wo sendo jije xia wo sendo xunju le jang.
So then here it says, though you make much effort to care for your body, which has no substance, you have to discard it. By sincerely giving it away to others, you fill many of your own and others' aims. After you think, I would be fool not to train my mind to this. Do whatever you can to produce the thought of giving away your body and the like to others. Engaging in bodhisattva state says.
Digi netan de karsan dero mazo chande de yenga ani chero mombochi la chero soje basene chande de yene chewa ngama jibe ne chero teta teshala ne sanche ge teta teshi shawa senge ge chero soje basede ani tene song senge de ngaso pen de lobe bo so ne je songje ani de chi ngaso mola chimo tenu kola ni gaden choba ye ni nimi kola songjo na ye de ni tembi gen jana de tembi chero de songore la da.
So, and the Garden of Birds stories is normally the teachings of the Garden of the birth story is given by the throne holder of the Gandhin tradition, Gandhin traditions during the great prayer festivals. Given, this such teaching is given by him during the great prayer festivals. So it talks about this, the birth stories of the Buddha in his past life, his successive past life, the many different many past lives of his birth, and what happened in those past lives when prior to his enlightenment.
Gade malang chimo se de zuye de malang chunju malang chimo se de ani jangde de ye ani tade chende de jangde bene yimla jangde de ye tsiba chi ne benda tombe tsiba chi ne tsiba janga ba de ani chunju menda wa de ne sinche chang de me ba chi ta ba de ta chi shi me lang la ko ne dende ki di chen de su zi che bi dan da la ani gelu ba de tsiba chi ne janga ba de chunju malang chimo se dan da ba so ro da de song chi malang ni malang chimo se de ta ni chen de ma chunju malang chimo se ne tsiba chi ne janga ba de rang lo ko go Digi kola ini gade chuba renshang ye ini tenbi yin zena de songcho na uris.
So therefore is the founder of the Great Prayer Festival is Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa is the one who found this Great Prayer Festival. Great Prayer Festival is also known as the miracle, Dharma Miracle Prayer Festival as well, the Miracle Prayer Festival. So it is called the miracle is because according to the story, the stories of the Buddha, right from the first day of the first lunar calendar, the first month of the lunar calendar, all the way to the 15th of the first month of the lunar calendar. It is to say that Buddha has, engaged in, various miracle powers. He shows various miracle powers to benefit the limitless sentient beings. So therefore, at that time, during the great prayer festival, this throne holder of the Gandhin tradition will give these specific teachings of the births of the Buddha's, the birth stories of the Buddha, Jataka tales.
Tanda di khatu ki chero ki tsi de tere ndo nga jande de ani transi ki lu chi shebe ka la ani nga zo be no tamo lu chi se de ani tamo tendre ki jande de yiku ji de transi ki ani 지 선제 타여바 던르지 타바다 타지 지면을 그네 니마지 내 임바 신나게 생라 니 면지 전신이 생라 니 던르다 땡겐질은 던르지 쇼비 거지라 니 담모신도 수보냥 타버지게 아니 그거대체 아니 그거제비 걸에네 사회제는 말하네 아니 소수 그게 사회게 되서를 사나게 견자게 년가 삼부지라 레비 거지라 아니 demba기 치디 손에 아니 장게 류데 담모는 심바동이 치디 내려도
So this particular verse that we find here is this body devoid of self perishing, so on and so forth, uh, in the garland of the bird stories, the Jatakamala, is 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 the explanation, the point where it explains how Buddha has at one of his lives that he has given his own body to the tigers, the the mother tiger, and then the her four other her pets. So so here it is one of the Buddha's lives that when he engaged when he was working for the welfare of other sentient beings, he had established many beings to the state of nirvana or state of liberation and so on and so forth. And then at one time he was wandered into the forest and then engage in meditative equipoised. So somehow he found a tiger, the mother tiger, and her cubs were so hungry that it was so hungry that mother has actually reached to the point where mother's on the verge of even eating her own cubs. So therefore, Buddha realized that, and then in order to save the hunger from the mother tiger and also as well as the the cubs, then Buddha gave away his own body to them.
Tendrikala, Tendriki Nyatapu Zipikala, any Sosogi, Jay in the Jendala Zero and Jigamari, that Luta Rantanama, the Jigamari Soede, any Luta Matana Jashan and Little Pentoka City, Pentoyama Kodameba, any Ranga Jasona, any Jibi Nimbo. Tolando Shangichi, Daya Dongeji Ranjinchi, Yimba Kanshijila, and Donda Chambo Shuji, Pentosachila, and Pumbo de Pejo Tontuna, and Delata Kepason, and Menjo Niebom Kepa, Menjo Akaya, Gawa Menjo Kaya, and Hapata, and Karasa, Zuboteni, Donda Towns said, Tronanji, Jebigone, Tandua, City.
So therefore, this particular verse says, if this body, which is devoid of self, perishing without substance, suffering, ungrateful, and continually impure. If this can benefit others, if it is benefit, if it becomes a beneficial, the great beneficial to others, why don't we use this? If we were able to do that, then that's not to delight in this, but it's not to be intelligent. That's what it says.
The Damejila Nimbo Messi, Zubuge Ranji, any Dameba Imba Kansela, any Kejilin Jido, which is say there is Nimbo Messing del Ranga Jashana, Tandachi, Matani, Nibo Mares, Sitomoti, Desheni, Larry Jeba, the Niju Shujaja.
So then here it says, the body is devoid of self, perishing and without substance. So if we were to live as it is, then this is how the nature of our body. If we can make good use of it, and there's a possibility that we can make a really good use of it.
No Dongeja Ranji was any dream ever city, any Segula Soba Kaseki Kola Patation, a co genetic message.
So then if you look at the nature of our body, it's a nature of suffering. Its nature is suffering, and then it is ungrateful. So what is meant by a body is ungrateful, because even though that you know wear many different kinds of clothings, outfits, very expensive outfits and so on, but your body will never repay that kindness, will never repay the whatever that you have given to the body.
다 파가세기 제샤나 거 가촌은 바선은 파바센샤손 차고로 아니 자바이바 간실을 메짱와 이게 류지마도 야스케 로야 말에서도.
So then it is impure and continually impure, right? So if we were to, if we think of our body only, and then what will we do with this body? And if you look at, because this is just so impure, and it cannot be used for anything else.
딘드기 리데 아니 셴라 펜토 지와지 용지 요나다 아니 government kebaji kani yongore yongo maro was and chen tangdo.
So then it says continually impure is of benefit to others, and not to delight in this is not to be intelligent.
대체 되게 담을 리진 카도에 상제기 공부시 당이 쓰기도 되래도 담을 리진 칼.
This is the verse how the Buddha thought when he was actually giving away his own body to feed those tigers.
대대 상제세 조에 다 간제 상제의 주주의 집이 장 다 쳐버지로.
So it is one of the Buddha's, the life, not the present by the Buddha Shakyamuni, but one of his previous lives.
대체 대대오기 책이들 뭐가 좀 로지제 샤오지 딱 가서 던으로 맞아 때문에 나한테 신주 디진 양내 생기데 맞소기 던저기 류론시 견소도 제가 계지 되니라 또 두고 말해다 아니 지 땅비 신비게 평가를 담보되는 님이 가래 용거리 아니 괜히면 진아서 메딩이지 레베 아니 평야다 계속 가려야해서 선어도네 안때는 짐발려로다 안때서 지 말하나 우주적에서 들으면 대선 거에게 다시 용식으로 와. 들기 전에 년에 간이 곧 넘버 통째는 년에 간이 제는 용사래. 세대 소스 계속해요.
So this is the stories. Normally we have a sayings. Which means the stories of the great masters of the past must be followed by the disciples, or the practitioners. So it is important to think about, the benefits of practicing generosity, benefits of engaging in practice of generosity. Benefits of others, and then think about the, disadvantages of not engaging in practice of generosities. That's all.
대체 현주래 장체 탕체 땅에 냥에데 달로 냥에데 버주 탕체 땅와 처지라 신전 나라 땅에 초 제소 송도.
So here the engaging in the bodhisattva state says, by giving everything away, I pass from sorrow. So my mind reaches nirvana, as I have to give up everything at death. It is best to give to living beings.
당가서 데로 간지 신바도 간지 신비 냥내 제는 냥엘레데 바 타고요로 타고요 지체 아니 계시 신비 냥내 마타나 리론시 계속돼 잡아 땅에서는 지에서는 메데신도 메보 차야데 세보 세장로
So with the practice of giving away, it says by giving everything away, it means with the practice of generosity, I pass away from sorrow. I pass from sorrow, which means by means of engaging in practice of generosity, I will reach nirvana, or the state of liberations. But if one, if one is unable to do it, to give away and everything and so on, but even though that your resources and your body and so on and so forth, at the end, this will be left behind. You will not be able to take this away, take it with you at the end.
세보 세자 아마저 리바다 되면다 이 라마 메바 코땅 그게 지나 아니 된다 텐서질레 땅에야나데 된다 텐서질레 땅샤와이나 아니 아 된다 쉬우지 텐도 오라 땅의 거고도 다 마타나 저런 로산에 대해서는 모두 다시 때문에 모두 땅 거고도 다땅 거고야나 아니 선제 탕지게 된다 땅샤와이나 아니 땅바데 고쳐 오라.
So if there is a great purpose of giving up our body, so one must understand this great purpose. And it is better to give away one's body resources and so forth. However, even though if you don't want to give away your body's resources and so forth, but you have no control over it. And one later or sooner, you will be left all this behind you and then traveling all by yourself. You will not be able to take your resources and all along with you.
파션 되바 레장체 론셔 넘버 마다 통지 진 년제 전부 랑게 ngane che shiba dagi chenja yenje ba shindum ribi tsuju toban jor ganshi delen jiba che minju chimba ganja delen jiba jong mechu tumo tad song go te jena nge ba deda no minju jinben jete paru dewa du 마지 체데니 르 동해제 대유노노 게 간디 장신다 용스 마타 대다 메번주르 마지 노나 메타 메제테 진베 대다 예비 때던로 센제 펜바 셔베 강진비 노나 니보 메번 여번주 강시 용스 동아 케벤하 조시바 대다 소라가 용스 종의 민제 강양 매 시베 따도 필수 초반 중 또의 녀모 용스 제민주 어지 주바 파빌런지 녀모제 강시시바 되는 랑지 초 데레 젠도 파베 랑의 송 셰송소 셰소송도 데지 송시 데바들로샤 데 렌세지도
So it says, if you see the impermanence of resource, and the compendium of the perfection says, if you see the impermanence of resources and naturally have great compassion, you will know with good reason that the gifts you have kept in your house belong to others. There is never fear from what has been given away. What is kept at home give rise to fears, and that it is insufficient, ordinary, or needing constant protections. If you give it away, these faults never harm you. So by giving, you achieve happiness in future lives. Not giving brings suffering even in this life. Human wealth is like a shooting star. What is not given away will cease to exist. Wealth not given to transitory and will be gone. So wealth not given is transitory and will be gone. By giving it away, it remains a treasury, and wealth of no value come to have value when you strive to help living beings. The wise praise giving wealth away. Childish person like to hoard it. No wealth is kept by holding on to it. And from giving it away, excellence always arises. By giving things away, you no longer grasp the affections. Being miserly breeds affections on an ignoble path. Noble beings say generosity is the best path. Well, it is opposite. It's a bad path.
Losa Swan. There, Chita Dero, Kanje, Luda Masha Yosoba de Co, Metaba than Chibi Church, Rashichi, Yimbachi, Sheswayana, and Della Temba Ye, any Kuijan of the Rovala, any Hijimangi Pemba, Yoncho or Sondo. Particular.
So long as you have a proper understanding of one's own body and one's belongings are impermanent, and it is impermanent and transitory, and the nature of transitory. If you have this understanding, and have a good practice of such, will also lead yourself to cultivation of compassion as well.
Natsuki Rashi the Tapu de Carsona, Natsuki Kona Mipa Jasate, Tashi Tempochi, Munzi Chene, and it called Gijo Moto Dedo. Kona Mipa Jasa Ide in Metemba, the Chibi Chichen of Jinsona, and call it Tatante. Lured over, call it Tatante, Tamboming in Chavro, then I'm also Jala Zimba Jinsona, Jala Zimbatella, and Loy Shuchim was Zingmewa.
So here now, the more you have the idea of perceiving things as permanent, the more you're grasping at it will become stronger. It will strengthen the force of your grasping at a particular things. So then, if you in contrast, if you have a proper understanding of how all things are impermanent and nature of transitory, then your grasping onto it will be not as 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 intense as the grasping at permanent self or the permanent belongings.
Tenrichi yula chasen shu chumbi onge any kansa jenje kola chasen shu chembo yana kansa jende la ji kui jengo de roba la ni je tomba yana ko tenrichi kange cheba do chi la tena any samba ge robo jende yo ya so de tenrichi jimba segura tenrichi shu chumbi tone any ni je ranji le je peta la ya toli yo do.
So then by having such understanding, the proper understanding of how things are, impermanent and transitory, and then you're able to loosen your grip of, grasping onto those body and resources and so on and so forth. Then not only that, but also if you see someone who is having a strong grasping, intense grasping at that, self and their belongings and resources and so forth, will enable you to actually generate compassion, because you will know that such and such person are lack of understanding how things really are, how the nature of impermanent, lacking the lack of understanding the impermanent nature of self and their resources.
다 가서 라신 설에 진대로 랑이 잘라다 랑랑 가지 슈치면나 아니 랑이 친제에는 세에는 콜로 도바 슈치로 요거를 차선 슈치면나 아니 파 강간형도 예비 손을 튀지 슈치를 요거로 다 차선 슈치를 요나 도바 슈치를 요나 아니 파셔들은 나중 다 대쇼 시기를 계속 나중 만든다 장르보 대기때 아주 춘이 요거로.
So here now, if we have a less grasping at ourselves and our resources, then this will lessen your doubt and not believing in others, which will opens a door for or the friendship with others. On the contrary, if you have a strong attachment to yourself and your resources, this will multiply your doubt and uneasiness with regard to others will close the door for friendships and neighborhood and so forth. So here now, without having a thought of giving, without having, in other words, without having a practice of generosity, even though one is very rich, one will be controlled by fears, because the wealth I have may not, what may I have, you have a doubt of, losing your wealth, whatever the wealth you have. And we have a doubt of, of someone may ask you to give something for, the share of your wealth and your resources and so on and so forth. So you will be remaining under the control of all those kind of fears and uneasiness. So on the other hand, if you have the, the proper, if you have the proper practice of generosity, in other words, the thought of giving away everything, then you'll have less fear. And with this fear, with having a less fear, it will open the door for having more friendships or the friends and neighbors.
네 라바도 가서 통출을 열어 주변적이 된다로 소소샹에 콘도로 네 chesa시나 초사시나 거마셔세 데세고세 자로 드리지 메와제 아니 동생데 여소나 아니 진별론시 체인지 됐어요 이게 아니 센들라 아니 강에게 되는 송 강에 메바 마세 아니 조시말라 아니 진별론시 비면을 용거래 손에 제대파로 되어 주.
So then it is we witness many times, there are many who may be rich, but sometimes their belongings and their resources will get stolen, and or maybe sometime for some reason, they are kind of vanishing all. It just vanished there, all their belongings and so on and so forth. And this is something that's the fear, unnecessary fear, that is, for the people who have more belongings and more resources and so forth. So now, if you have this, the thought of giving, of practice of generosity, then as we find in the text by saying, which means the practice of generosity will, give you a wealth in your future life, and the practice of morality will give you a happiness, or lead you to the high realms in your future life, and so on and so forth. So if you have this, giving, the thought of giving and practice of generosity will, will lessen all those burdens, will actually, take away the burdens from your shoulder significantly.
라바도 가서 세대에 이 변조 논시 생에 대단한 논시 줘봐대 아니 메테바 간다 나게 깨지 되냐라 메바 차등했지 아니 되게 자신이 메바 아니 만 저랑이 마다이나 아니 메타베 자신이 깨지 기니라 메바 차동이 지로와스 되게 메르게 차동했지 아니 당샤와이나 저랑이 때베바데 지바레 마음바네 논시 때네 저로 소마세.
So if you have this understanding of how all those things, such as oneself and one's belongings, one's resources, and so forth, are all transitory nature, and having this understanding, then if you're able to engage in the practice of generosity, giving, then it is like you are actually putting your resources into the treasure box that you can use in the future.
다 노는 힘보 메메세데 아니 파체 샤와이나 단다 주다 노생이데 계지 데니를 지로 힘보 메바 지레다 저랑이 파체 샤와이나 단다 피게들 펜도 용바 아니 데인 제블라 아니 마오발라 라니라 펜도 용인자디 아니 지 메바 힘보 메나야 힘보 여바 차로 소아치.
So this transitory, I mean, the impermanent resources and belongings, if you are able to give it to someone with the practice of, with the thought of giving, with the pure thought of giving, and then, whatever that the gift that you have given to someone will be beneficial to somebody. And with that, not only that you have this giving this practice of giving this gift to someone, but also the gift that has been beneficial for that individual will give him great benefits in the future.
강시 용수 또 개변한 선도와 아니 인자네 아니 류동로셔 용수 줘봐데 아니 켜봐도 나저 용이도 수별아 동사다 하바제사 아니 라바도 아니 조뭐 파신바 동안 주 코용 거라 아니 조뭐 소소로 코용 소소로 가와 아니 조뭐 용 되게 예대여 선도.
So therefore it says the wise always praises the practice of giving, the practice of generosity, because by engaging in practice of generosity will have a wealth and resources, the abundant resources in one's future life.
진배다도 필수 소반종 소문데 맞대로 진바도에 제고 이제는 신이điểm 진바도에 제고 이제는 세대 이제 해자다 아니 진바 당샤와이나 아니 판 조와 데다게니 콤비스 저와 콤바 마세 아니 조와시마나서요 소소게 내 저와도 컨트롤스나 주로마진라리 데데마 진바도에 제고 이제는 신이điểm 바주비 천차조스 소야로 세나기 듬바데 주역이 천차래서.
So this practice of generosity in the abbreviated Lam Rim Chenmo, abbreviated Lam Rim, where Lama Tsongkhapa has stated that the practice of generosity will not only to fulfill the aims of others, but also fulfill one's own aim. In other words, fulfill one's own aim in one's future life. So therefore, this practice of generosity, such practice of generosity, is also the perfect weapon of cutting the sense of miserliness.
또 대 단다기 미게 치니데 탐마데레 조 가사 진배다도 필수 조반죠 또에 녀모 요슨 제면죠 아니 주바 생데 세나고도 세나 제제 답합이 나오면지 녀모지 답이 나오면지 강시 진바 나오지 조세데 녀 단지로 이제 세니 듬바 주비 천차초 마존히 떠지비 제세시 니비 잡아 수주 조바지 대다신의 류동로식이 용수 동에 랑사 개배된 아니 주전라미 년에 떠다 탄데다저 되게 정서로 세야 돼 시디.
그래서 이제 집이 안겠으면 등에 찾아
진반도에 제공 이제 넣어야 돼. 노티스. 세네 듬바주비 천차 초. 또 마존히 떠지비 제세시 마존 숑바메바.
Let's mushroom.
마존 인터제비 제세시 용수 동에 랑사 개배된 아니 배치 대사요. 내년 주전하면 이게 치대다 제다이나 가서 되니들 영향이나 아니 파신저저게 고아대 아니 저로 뭐지 라리 데데 나올라 치 쇼로까지 되게 돈은 고세버지 내도.
So here now, the practice of generosity will enable one to accumulate excellences. In other words, excellences, which is the cause of one's own future resource and so forth, and also will fulfill the aims of other beings. And with this practice of generosity will also become a very powerful weapon of cutting our stinginess or the miserliness, So therefore, therefore, the practitioners should not dishearten to engage in the practice. One should not be discouraged, but have a strong, in fact, have a courage to engage in the practice of generosity. So therefore, this is the practice that is praised by the wise ones, the intelligent ones. Therefore, I, Yogi, have undertaken such practice. And those of you who long to achieve liberations must do the same. That's what his Rinpoche has stated. But if you look at each of those verses, if you read this verse, it will really give you a really, a lucid explanation of the practice of six perfections.
nga beji chi jena nga tsit che min so jimba ro ye ko ye jeno sene de ba ju bi chen cha chu ma ju ni ta che bi je se shu ni bi tra ba shu ju ro ba jen re do ni bi tra ba shu ju ro ba de ta she ne lu dong long she ge yong su dong yin lang za ke be ten ji zhen la mi nyang ne ta de da che de ye zhong zi lo se de res de shi ma je che mo de nga yang nga che de mo do de ye tsi de shu ju ye re do ni bi tra ba shu ju ro ba jen 대다 시에 류동노시 계속의 대다 시에 류동노시게 용서 동화 랑상 캐베된 제절라미냐렌다 제세디 네 류노시 계속의 다가지 진비 냥내 영역에 지 예비게 잡아야 아니 쇼절을 도통해 아니 대야 류동노시 겨와다 제바 아니 이제는 뭐 통해 레도 류동노시게 용서 동의 랑상 캐베데서 단지 된주의 민주의 얘는 캐바스여서 손에 전도宣주의 손사 대세대 다 캐비 냐내래 다 가서 렘바속에 냐내스 개체마도나 담방하게 유라 제네 능은에 지 쇼도발라 로트예게 인지를 전에 안에 두두 따로.
So then it's also that's the verse that we have not completed yet, the verse of the abbreviated Lam Rim. It's also it went on to say that which all the fames will be resound in the 10 directions when if you are able to engage in such practice of generosity, and you all your body and resources can be given to someone for the benefit of others, and such practice is done by the great intelligence, where it says. So therefore, although we are unable to do such practice at this point, but we must at least have an aspiration to engage in such practice in the future.
또 나쪽에 생각이 제게 생리 슈도 지 정에나 지 슈기 최종 개체 생에지나 뭐네 나쪽에 동송지 이제 대제 강요스 줘버데 나쪽 생각이 제도 그래 나쪽 잘라 못하게 잘라 가서 그것도 그 생에나 파땅에 개체시에서는 거네 배제 단단가서 상주 선배기 동생바 용수 줘버 로도네 배제 고무지 단도 말이 슈지 세거라.
So now here, if let's take an example, if we look at ourselves, the way we actually hold on to our belongings and our resources, we can hold on to our belonging and our resources, even our resources and belongings are filled. The 3 worlds are actually filled by our resources. You're able to hold on to it. You will be able to have such a strong attachment to entire, belongings and your resources. But when it comes to giving away to someone, it is really difficult for us to even to give away $1. It is hard for us to actually give away $1 with great enthusiasm.
대라 맞죠 이제 고모치등에 트레이트를 세그래다 고모치드만 tre바데 소소도 시도 지바인 비 손하기 인비 샤샤데 바나에 제로 내가 저 말어 소소 지금 소소데 대서 여비 손을 지마도 but 피기 제사되는 하루니 지바 지장이 받다 그 인시 코로나 인샤샤 손을 전화된 가서 매와 되는 거예요 뭐네 참.
So, we might say that, well, $1 I can give it away to someone. It is not difficult for me to give away $1. Just $1 is not difficult to give away. But then you think about the way we give it away to someone, $1. We are giving away to $1, but you know that this is my belonging and I'm giving it to you. You are not having a sense of sameness of the person whom you give and the giver yourself. You do not have this. You already have a distinction between the two. You distinguish yourself and others, and you being the giver, that you belong to, the $1 belong to me. I am giving you this $1 and so on and so forth. But you are not giving it to them, someone as understanding the sameness of the person and yourself.
당아지 되게 되자. 그래서 대리는 사베네 뒤송지 개소나 아니 쇼지도 당비 탈라데네 지 상치 선비 당바존네 아니 제스지 셔발라 치진도 로네 아니 파신 중에 문에지 다지 다 세대 천절을 냥설네 또 제해요세데 지 제마토나라 선바기 타제도 지제네 아니 라지 선제 당지 유주비 선제 거면 영원히도 더 지잖아 제거이 아니 시에네 받는 되네 쇼베네 다 랑리 집에 남아세나레 아니 슈지 자와서다 자와는 지 신절로도수 세네네 뭐하다 뭐나 지 삼바타바네 제다 아니 수나사도
So let's do our dedication now. May all the merits that I've accumulated by receiving these teachings, or the merit that I've accumulated in the 3 times, and receiving the teachings of these perfections, by means of that, may I, be able to perfect the practice of the 6 perfections, and thereby may I be able to benefit all sentient beings, establishing all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. May all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions, including Lam Rim lineage gurus or the masters, bless me to be able to do this.
Sanje Shindu Mende Bewayi Dogen Nanda Shina Shubo Shu Jewa Gundo Yanda Lama Jimi Chuji Bela Nonshu Ji Sadan Lanju Yuden Rozo Doju Change Go Yundo Shu Yedan Guru Mende Laga Naya Daya Mi Dene Rindo Bele Soni Yamba Kanshi Saba De Lomi Mari Kedon Jovana Nandre Jaye Wambo Daju Chi Dema Sunbi Tsera Gundo Yang Jabe Yangju Zebe Jizone Dembe Rimba Gyunzang Langje Chu Nyene Zhube Jena Nyeshe Shu Rangi Jijin Dobe Langje Shuja Tsewe Changye Dage Je Zhoyue Yue Mienba Seshen Jaye Tenba Yurin Zinju Ji Tenba Rinchen Choge Manjaba Chojan Nyamba Chubi Shodene Nyeje Chenbu Yiro Jobaye Pende Dede Sewa Sheba Shu Sejin Jaye Minjong Chenle Leru Sancho Langje Rinbe Chang Tande Nanje Yena Bede Shin Jaye Zeba Rindu Chongju Ji Langzang Zhube Tijin Zhuxie Ji Gejin Sije Madang Mimien Gu Cero Gundo Jaye Hawaii, Nada Lada Dewa Majuji, Kanse Deva Chola Chuchuji, Chujin Dula Zumba Devi, Tudin Nanja Dadu Chushiji, Zhashi Jiangzi Shu, Zhou Ji, Juzi Lamin Guse Raudenji, Nanga Chile Shu Zhen Jema Na, Lozan Denbi Zhemen Sa Song Ji, Zhou Yi Min Se Dadu Nian Ju Ji, Gang Zhe Rao Yue Guo Yu Xin Ma Su, 偏当帝王马林九月年，新日子王天子家作业，小别身体跑多点九节，江边八月知道千八道，更多上不点样点现的，得到根据就是道路上，给我得到堂前绕多我。 就是往西边叫我当姐姐，我刚了就多我把大钱给月早晚的跟讲，从不学习绕多我哎呀，天就多谢呢。